question then becomes, does him endorsing Trump, does that give Trump a big enough boost to actually change this and give Trump a better shot here at winning? So we're going to look at a little bit of this. So this is CNN, and he's going to make a point real quick, and then we'll get into sort of their discussion. Because I think it's kind of horseshit, but it is kind of funny to watch. So we're just going to watch this clip real quick. Because everything, I want to preface this. Everything with these guys, Trump, RFK, these right-wing kind of nutbags, everything is whining. All they do is complain. They're not fair to me. They're coming after me. I, me. I mean, it's honestly, I mean, if you ever, like, go read a transcript or watch one of those old recordings of, like, Hitler's speeches or Mussolini's speeches or Mao Zedong, fascists do nothing but bitch and moan. It's like 90% of what they do is talk about how unfair things are. we gotta be mean to them because they're mean to us. That's like 90% of it. But here's RFK doing that same shit. This is how he opens, just to predicate the kind of guy he is.
Earlier in the day, when announcing his withdrawal, Kennedy said that he's been shunned by the media.
My poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s. The DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near-perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage.
This is all bullshit. None of that's true. I've seen 30 live interviews with him since he started running. At least. Because we've been covering him.
Right.
This is all horseshit. He's been on what? 100 podcasts and stuff? I mean, he just complained. But that's what me. I would have won if they would have just been fair. Well, watch how the guy from CNN responds. Because I'd be pissed too about this. Because this is just lies. It is just, oh, well, I would have had a shot, but they're just mean to me. It's such rich kid shit.
I don't doubt that he's been shunned. For the record, he was my guest here 3 times. I have all the angry emails to prove it. 1 live, 2 pre-taped interviews to accommodate his schedule. He was also invited to join us live this morning, and I hosted his wife, actress Cheryl Hines. So, Mike Kennedy...
So unless the only 3 interviews he got was with that guy, which I know is not true, then he lied. He's fucking just like Trump. Well, it's not fair, and they would have done it to me, and it's just, you know, and if they would have given me a shot, and, you know, and it's just not, and I'm so upset. Fucking whiny bitches. I just can't believe, you know. But yeah, it is. This is the losers. Losers now are uniting. They're both freaking losers.
Oh my God, this is so stupid.
All right, so let's get into a little bit further in this interview where these guys are discussing it. And the one guy's a Republican strategist in the blue suit, and then the guy in the kind of like lighter color suit is a Democratic strategist. So they're going to kind of talk a little bit about this. What his chances are, sorry.
Okay.
Harris's, just her identity, and I think this latent threat to Trump of being associated with anti-vaccine extremism that Kennedy brings to him. I think on balance, this will end up being more a problem than an asset.
Okay, let me go back to Alex and say, Alex, how would you handle him? Would you give him a seat on the plane? Are you putting RFK Jr. out there with Trump again? And if so, in what settings? By the way, my 2 cents, if I may, I watched all of his speech in withdrawing from the race, and I watched all of the Trump rally. And I know that he gets portrayed, and accurately so, as being anti-vax. But there's much more populism in his opinion.
I want to pause this. He says, I'm not anti-vax, I'm only for safe vaccines. But then he wants to he wants to get rid of all the vaccine requirements for schools. And he's flat out, the reason he got kicked off social media is because he was running around telling everybody that COVID vaccine wasn't safe. And a lot of people died that followed him. So no, he's fucking anti-vax. He can say he's not, he is. I'm not a murderer, I just killed 4 people. In cold blood. For fun. But that doesn't make me a serial killer. Gosh. I'm just anti people that I want to kill. I mean, that's
Clearly.
Yeah, it's basically the same argument.
When he's talking about healthy food, when he's talking about healthy kids, when he's talking about forever wars, and
Michael,
I know he'll
you
be
don't think
cast
healthy
among
kids-
When he's
You don't think healthy
Michael,
kids is code? You don't think healthy kids is code?
It is.
Well,
Ron,
I think it's, Alex,
I
go ahead.
would-
You respond. I want to
Let me-
let me.
I want to. He's right though. I'm all for healthy kids. Yeah, that's code for I don't want them to get vaccines. You know, I'm all for a more congenial society, which means that sometimes I have to kill a person in cold blood. But it does. I'm not a murderer. I'm anti-murder. It's all horseshit. I love it. He's trying to be nice, but it's not going through.
Go ahead, Alex.
No,
I
not
should
at all.
not have injected myself. Alex,
no,
how would
I'm
you
glad
handle
you did
it? Go ahead.
because how would I handle it? But let me also address Ron here. I guess he has nothing to contribute at all, which is why the Democrats and Biden and Harris have been working so hard to shut this guy down, to censor him, to get him out of the process. I think a lot of what you're saying, some of the extremism is built into his stock price, but what he does is he changes the narrative for Trump. There's a youthful, optimistic factor to that brand, and I wouldn't discount that, Ron. I think you're off base on that. How would I use him? I'd put him on the plane, but not all the time. I think once a week, do an event with him, do something big and powerful. Americans are hungry for politicians who believe in something other than themselves. And that's certainly not Kamala Harris. She just had a convention where she not only just did plastic surgery on herself, she like ripped out her DNA and inserted some new stuff and then did nothing to explain to the American people why that occurred.
So, she didn't do plastic surgery. Go ahead.
No, I just said, what on earth is he talking about?
She didn't do plastic surgery. This whole she ripped out a DNA and inserted stuff means she's pretending to be black when she's not. This is the whole racism shit. He just pulled it out. You know, she's black when she wants to be black, kind of thing. That's what he's saying. And then the other thing about it,
It can work that way. God,
Yeah.
I'm so tired of that whole.
get used to it. We're going to be hearing it all through fucking November, all through her presidency, about how black she is and isn't. Is she a real American or not? Because she's not white. That whole fucking shit Obama went through for 8 years, right? But
Right?
he's doing that. The other thing that I think is funny about this is her DNC speech. For those of you who didn't watch it, part of it was she talked about her childhood and her history. And this wasn't about making it about herself. This was about setting a contrast. Because on the Republican ticket, you have Donald Trump was born rich with a silver spoon up his ass. His father gave him over $400 million. If he'd have just invested that in the S&P 500, he'd be worth 10 times what he claims to be even. Right? But he's so stupid, he has to piss away all the money. So Donald Trump never had to work. Never really worked at all. He just sort of plays at it. J.D. Vance, got to Yale, but then he's been Peter Thiel, who's a billionaire. He's been his butt boy his entire adult life. Peter Thiel got him his first job as a venture capitalist, got him his second job as a venture capitalist after he screwed that one up. And then Peter Thiel funded him to run for Congress. So he's basically bought and paid for. So you got these two guys that live with wealthy people in wealthy circles that aren't even close to the middle class at all, or the lower class, You have Kamala Harris, who was raised by two professors, and shocker, professors don't make that much money. They make good money, they just don't make a ton of money, right? And you have Tim Walz, who was a high school teacher for most of his adult life before he ran for office. And he was in the National Guard. And just to give you a comparison, because Kamala's worth a few, her and her husband are worth, they're millionaires. And then Trump is claiming billions, and Vance is claiming hundreds of millions, right, on their disclosures. When they did the financial disclosures, you know what Tim Walz's net worth is? $350,000. Who sounds like somebody you can relate to more?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, and that's why Kamala wants to point out, hey, yeah, I grew up, I worked at McDonald's. I had to get, special dispensation for college. I had to loan money. Mommy and Daddy didn't pay for everything. That's why she's trying to set that up. There's a comparison. Who do you think's really for the working class? The people who are working class, who come from the working class, or the two freaking rich guys? That's the whole point.
Who were never working class.
Right. That's what it is. They're trying to set it up as, look, we're actually the working class party. We're the patriot party. We're not the crazy ones trying to take away people's rights. They are. That's the whole point of setting it up. So she's trying to humanize herself and introduce herself. But he's trying to make it about it's a racist thing. Like, well, she's not really black, or she's only black when she wants to be black. And all she talks about is herself. Well, yeah, it's her acceptance speech. All Trump does is get up on rallies and whine and whine and whine about how unfair things are, and they're coming after me, and. So I don't think it adds anything to have RFK, because now you've got two whiny bitches on the stage.
Right, true.
So
it's like somebody who just shows up on your doorstep that you never, and just says, "Oh, I've always loved you," when they hated you yesterday and gave you no rationale. It's a very cynical campaign, and I think the more exposure it gets, the more selfish it's going to become. And I think if on the other side, Trump can take advantage of the Kennedy opportunity to expand his vision of the future, which frankly is hard for Trump. All he's got to say about the future is, let's make America great again. But if now he's got somebody who can talk about children, children's health, clean water. When's the last time you heard a Republican campaign talking about any of those things? Use them judiciously, a little seasoning on the main entree.
Ron, I can see you want a response. Go ahead and take it. Keep it brief if you can.
No, I don't really want a response. I just think this is absurd. I mean, I think this is a lunatic conversation we're having. There's really nothing else to say.
Why is it? Wait a minute. I got to say this. Why is it a lunatic conversation? Why is it a guys? Hang on. Why is it a lunatic conversation when Democrats went to such great lengths to keep him off ballots? To Alex's point, if the guy is a loon who was never going to register, why were they so worried about his presence?
Because Donald Trump can't reach 50%, as you said, and anything that allows him to win with a lower number makes it more likely for him to win.
Alex?
I think he's right. This is so stupid. He's right. This was about getting Trump elected. That's what Kennedy's whole thing was about. Even his staff admitted that. We got leaked video of them explaining the plan of how we're really going to get Trump elected. We're not really running.
Right.
I mean, we watched it on the show. And he's like you said, you're whitewashing an extremist nutbag. We went through the whole thing about the sexual harassment stuff, his drug problem, about how he basically financially ruined his second wife and she hung herself. You know? I mean, this is just, they're weird-ass nutbag people. So, yeah, I'm with him. But I want to show you this, and we'll wrap up this thing on Kennedy, because he's just, we'll see him here and there, but I think he's just a loser, and we're kind of done. Oh, hang on. So let me show you this. So this is the latest polls. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So this is on the average of polls as of today, August 25th. Harris is up by 3.6 points on the average, so she's crushing it. right? So she's beaten Trump by 3.6 points. If you go down through this, some of these she's beaten him by 5, 6, 7, 8 points in some of these. But the key thing is she's leading in pretty much almost all the swing states, except for Florida and Texas. Florida and Texas are now on the board as swing states, which they weren't before. So she's created swing states, and she's leading in the swing states. So this is, I mean, could Trump still potentially win? Sure. Could Kamala win? Yeah, that's more likely, looking at the polls. And this is what we said. Once you get to August, September, especially September, you start to see the Democrats and the liberals check in. They don't usually, they're not Republicans. They don't give a shit most of the time. But once it gets closer to the election, then they check in and they start answering these things. But that's what we're seeing. But Harris has sort of jump-started it early because everybody's excited now that, hey, we have a presidential candidate who's under fucking 1 million years old. You know? Not
Right.
some old white guy, you know, just dog Biden too much, but he's old. The other thing about it is for Kennedy to make a difference, because let me show you this again. So, if we look at this, the black line here at the bottom is Kennedy. So up until he dropped out, he was polling at about 4.5%, around there. Okay? So that means that 75% of all the Kennedy voters would have to flip to Trump. And that would have to be in the swing states to make this a difference. Now, a lot of Kennedy voters were voting for him because they didn't know much about him. But they didn't like Trump and they didn't like Biden. A lot of those people flipped to Harris already. So, even if you factor all this in, does he really make up the difference? Well, only if they get the vast majority of his voters. And how many of those people do you think are even going to show up to vote? A lot of them were just throwaway votes or disaffected voters. They don't give a shit. So the fact that all of them are now going to switch to Trump and turn this thing, I don't think it's going to happen. And especially since we haven't seen what the bump is going to be, because typically you get a huge polling bump after the convention. And we haven't seen what Kamala's is. I read somewhere that initial polls have her up now 7 points, which is double what it shows on the average.
Right.
We won't know that for a few more days, but you know, I think this thing is pretty much over. I don't think Kennedy brings anything to it. I think it's two weird old losers that come from money, whining about how unfair life is to them.
And I like that in, one of the last clips there, they pointed out that Kennedy might in fact bring more problems to the Trump campaign than benefit.
Yes,
right? Anybody who from his nutbag positions and then he's joining Trump, who's already in a problematic position, it can be more of a drag down than anything else.
Well, yeah, and like the thing about it is you've got Trump and J.D. Vance trying to shake off the, well, no, we're not weird thing, when they are incredibly weird and creepy. And then we're going to bring in Kennedy, whose other big news story recently was he was hanging out with Roseanne Barr, who's a total nut job, telling her the story about how he found a dead bear and stuck it in his car because he wanted to keep it, but then forgot he had a flight and ditched it in Central Park. And it caused a big scandal because the police are like, well, fuck, if we found a dead bear in Central Park, that means there's probably other bears. So it cost the city millions and millions of dollars. And he admitted this. And it's like, you're trying to shake off the we're not weird, creepy, rich people that just do whatever the fuck we want vibe. Yeah, let's bring Robert Kennedy Jr. to the fucking table. Go ahead.
But then you're going to go and be, in the pub hanging out with the woman who almost got the really popular reboot of her show canceled for being a freaking weirdo.
Right.
And start telling her super weirdo stories of really screwed up, insensitive, and expensive things that you have done, to the detriment, like, doing damage to other people. And you want to be like, yes, I'm the responsible candidate. And like, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like, we're not weird and we're relatable. Look, see, here's Robert Kennedy Jr. I have brain worms. I mean, it's like, literally, the guy has a brain worm. He's admitted it. Hold my dead bear that I found in the woods. It's like, we're not weird at all. Oh, they got nothing, man. They got nothing. You mind if we take a quick break and come right back?